Hey everybody. I saw a thing today where Demi Lovato kind of went back on her well, her pronouns, but that's a separate thing. Shocker. She doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to sobriety, and I say that because Demi Lovato was like, "Oh, I'm California sober," and then it was like, "Oh no, I'm not." Recently said, "Oh, I shouldn't really said that." As a matter of fucking fact, when I made the documentary about Dancing with the Devil, because I'm edgy, that she wasn't even fucking sober, but she was talking about like recovery, and it's like, it's nothing personal. And I know there are a lot of people. I'm not think anybody's gonna watch this, but which is totally fine. But I have had a kind of just I can't even think of an adjective strong enough, like just a true contempt for the way addiction and recovery is portrayed. And like I said in the video last time, when it comes to like recovery as a business and rehab, and the way addiction is criminalized, and also the way recovery is handled, like I said, from a rehab standpoint, I have as much contempt in just a little bit of a different way for that side of it, because I think it's a lot of lies, and I think it's a lot of it's too much bullshit to be unintentional, and it's at the expense of people's lives, every single day. And the same thing, I think it's just a lot of bullshit with the way addiction is portrayed in movies. I'm real fucking sensitive to it. I know I'm probably too sensitive, right? But I'm an addict, and I was for 13 years, and I guess a part of me will be an addict till the day I fucking die, because I've always been, and I am who I am. We are who we are, and will always be the person that just felt that flicker of energy, like that jolt of energy in my soul at the idea of self-destructing, and then every time I did something self-destructive, which is really kind of like addiction in my opinion, that's what addiction looks like played out. It's some type of self-destructive behavior that does you harm, but that you continue to do and seek out this experience because it feels some type of emotional void, like where it masquerades as feeling an emotional void. And so when I first started cutting myself at 13, like I said, I never even smoked pot until I was 18. I never got into like hard drugs until I was 20, going on 21. But when I started cutting myself, this was in 1998, mind you, it was an addiction, and I didn't know it then. It was just, and the reason why I, out of nowhere, I had not seen, I didn't know I was going to do it, and I did not know cutting was something that people did. I had never thought about it. The reason I said the year was because it's important to know this was well before the internet. I was in 8th grade. I was in middle school, and the idea just hit me when I was in the shower to cut myself with the razor I was shaving with, cut my legs, and I still have that scar from the very first time I did it. It's on my right ankle, and I have scars the last 2 times I cut myself before I was almost murdered. I haven't cut myself since I was almost killed, because that was a real life-changing event. But the first time I cut myself, I was 13. It was I have 2 little scars to this day on my right ankle, and the last 2 times that I ever cut myself, they were no, that's not true, I'm taking that back. The last time I ever cut myself, and the 2 most serious times that I ever cut myself were both on my wrists. And the funny thing is that now that I have all these other scars from being almost killed, it's like the scars, at least I can say like a tiny silver lining, that the scars on my wrists do, you know, blend in. Like nobody asks about it anymore. I don't know if you can like, it's really show up, but this one, like I had to get stitches. So anyway, before I ever did drugs, before I knew anything, as soon as puberty hit, I couldn't even understand, let alone explain to anyone else. I couldn't even understand it for myself, what I was feeling. But basically, I felt like a part of me was not alive and was not equipped to live. And I didn't know what the problem was. And like I said, I didn't even know how to word that problem. And this was when I basically hit puberty. I realized, I always knew I was like thinking weird and dark things. I was like, I knew it was strange, but from puberty on, I was like, I'm not doing well here. Something is off. I knew. I got excited when I would cut myself, when I would think about doing really destructive things. And like I said, I was like an honor student from a good family. I got good grades. I was polite, blah blah blah. But I just had this like destructiveness, and it was like this frenzy inside of me, and this flicker, this like jolt of electricity would just kind of course through me when I thought about or when I acted out things that were ultimately harmful for me, like addictive behaviors. And cutting myself, and then like I would say promiscuous sex in high school, and really toxic, codependent, like obsessive relationships were also an addiction. Like sexuality and relationships, I'm going to count those as one. So I had these, I knew it was off, but like I really liked that destructive part of me. I don't know where I was going with this, how I got started talking on this with California Sober. I should probably like start taking some notes or something, huh? But what I was gonna, I guess kind of what I was getting at was, well before I ever did drugs, I, was this person that had, was very drawn to unhealthy coping mechanisms, and was very drawn to destruction, and self-destruction, really specifically, and just a lot of different factors. And I was incredibly sensitive. Like I was always, and it didn't help a lot of things. Like I was always taught to like apologize, and I never knew what I was apologizing for. Like half the time growing up, it was just like, oh, say you're sorry, or think about how this is going to make me look, as like a family, think about how you're going to look. And so I was already like clinically self-conscious, and very much a perfectionist, a people pleaser, and I was a fucking weirdo in my mind, and these problems. And then all of a sudden there's like this pressure of like making the family look bad, and apologizing, and being portrayed, and being very, very, having ingrained that to be aware of how I am perceived. And I just fucking was like iced on the cake. And I just when I realized that substances and drugs could kind of, scratch all of these eternal, like unscratchable itches. When I realized that drugs could do that, I was like, yes, because I still didn't have, a sense of self or self-worth. And that's unfortunately not put forth and highlighted in society, I don't think, as being like one of the goals, of life, is to be like, okay, well, love yourself. And you hear people say a lot, I've heard people say a lot, you got to do something you love, or, do something you love. You don't work a day in your life, do your passion, that type of stuff. But still, from my experience, and I'm sure I'm not alone, it wasn't really, that wasn't the option for me that was encouraged. It was, go to college, get a degree, just, have this life that worked for everybody else in my family. You know, everyone else in my family has a degree and has a nice house and a good job, and they're like able to live, and that's great. But if you can't do that, that's okay too. But you do have to be strong enough in your sense of self and enough compassion for yourself to say, okay, I can't do that, but I am going to do this. And then carve out your own path and make it happen. And that's what took me forever to understand. I thought it was either, the cookie cutter thing or drugs, but I don't really know like where I even am going with this. But what pisses me off, back to the beginning with Demi Lovato and Hollywood in general and celebrities, yada yada, and just this culture is like, addiction is just looked at in a very, very, very disingenuous way. And for me, what I've really had to do is say in every single way to fuck the noise. I went to rehab, I went to jail, I went to prison, jails, institutions, and near death, oh my, as they say in NA and AA. And none of that shit worked for me. None of it. And it doesn't hardly work for anybody. It really doesn't. And if you are ready to get sober, you are not going to and do not need to go to a rehab to get sober. And if you're not ready to get sober, you can go to a million fucking rehabs and it doesn't matter. It's just going to be a waste of time and money. And like I said, if you are going to get sober, because when I was ready to get sober, it had nothing to do with rehab. When you're ready, you realize that, oh shit, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to find something deeper and better, because that was always the thing anyway, was like, I just wanted to be okay. I wanted to feel okay. And I wanted to feel like something truthful and real. And I wanted a break and an escape. And also, I wanted like the journey and the fucking destination, and heroin and opiates and needle dope and just addiction and just the love affair I had with chaos in general seemed like it fit that bill, and it did maybe for years. But at the end of the day, I was like, this isn't it. Like I said in my other video too, every single addict you'll ever meet, if you pay attention, either they're going to be like brand spanking new to addiction and to the lifestyle, if they're like, oh, I'm having the time of my life, and like mean it. Because like anybody that's been in addiction for a minute, it's like, they're not fucking happy. And like I said, look at Hunter S. Thompson. He got to be, I thought he was just the dream. Honestly, he got to get high all of his life, have an amazing job, a total dream job, an amazing life, a millionaire, beloved, witty, and he got to get high forever, and look how he died. It's just like, it's the ultimate lie to buy into like this, just all these fucking bullshit ass narratives with addiction and with recovery. And so when I got sober, I really had to ignore everything, because there are, and there were when I got sober, and there are always going to be a lot of people who think, that Suboxone is bullshit, and Suboxone has helped me save my own life, and it's amazing to have that buffer, certainly in the beginning, to have something so you're not just going through these withdrawals. Why go through withdrawals if you don't have to? And so Suboxone's great, and I love it, because even though I may be on it the rest of my life, I may not be. I don't know, but I know for right now, I still more often than not enjoy just having that kind of like a safety net. Even though I don't feel like I need it, I like to have it, and that's where I'm at now. And there were always a lot of people that were very against medicated assisted sobriety. California sober. The ironic thing is that I technically am California sober, and I did not know that, but I did not know that, and I'm California sober. I have been for 4 years, and I guess I will be for the rest of my life, but it's not like really what you think, in the sense that if my goal had been to get high sporadically, that's where California sober is bullshit. If you're already a drug addict, if you've had a history of drug problems, and if you acknowledge, hey, I'm a drug addict, or at least a former drug addict, if that's you, then you can't be California sober. Because if you could moderate now, you could have moderated then, and just like duh. And what works is different for everyone. What works is different for every addict, but what does not work is pretty universal for all addicts, right? You know, and that's with a lot of things, but talking about addiction here. And, you know, God, these fucking, oh my God, I'm getting like enraged just thinking about it. Fucking cannot, like I said, I'm just so, I can't even, the vitriol, it's just like, I cannot fucking stand these phony ass celebrities. They do not know what they're talking about, and they perpetuate this thinking that like, it's like sexy to do these things and to be this certain way, but they're just like, I mean, every other, like a fake ass fucking Republican or something, like, you know, that's perpetuating this one narrative. But it's like, nobody, no matter what you're doing, what you're talking about, you're not going to be there for anyone and everyone when the fallout from your fucking irresponsible, ignorant, dumbass platform, when the fallout happens all over the world, all over America, you know, in someone's life, you know, because you have a voice and a big platform, and you use it to say the wrong things. I mean, when that fallout happens, you don't give a fuck. You're a multimillionaire. You can be like, oh, my bad, California sober doesn't work. Yeah, no fucking shit. Maybe you should have shut your fucking mouth before you were like, oh, shouldn't have done a documentary. Whoopsie. You know, no, I'm just sick of it. And the same, like, as an addict, I think this is kind of what I was getting at, and I'm like, sorry if I sound harsh or mean, and I am. It makes me like fucking furious, because I know when I was in the bowels of addiction for years and years, and I know I'm not alone in saying this, but when I was in the bowels of addiction, I knew very well how horrible and horrific my life had become. It was totally unmanageable, you know. I was like homeless towards the end. It was like really, really bad. But nevertheless, when intervention came on, I was in the hospital recovering from shooting up MRSA directly into my bloodstream. You know, I was on a ventilator in ICU. You know, it was touch and go. I was in the hospital for 2 straight fucking months on IV antibiotics. I could barely even walk, and I was a full-blown needle junkie, heroin addict before I even left the hospital, okay? And in that time period, this is just one example, I was at the hospital and the show Intervention came on, and, you know, me being in the state I was in, horribly lost in my addiction, I could not help but get like a feeling of like frenzy, like that anticipation, like I said, that internal, eternal, unscratchable itch of just wanting to get high by seeing someone else on TV who also has a life in shambles and in chaos on the show Intervention. Like an addict, a lot of addicts are that way. Like, we're really triggered by the show Intervention. It like stirs something inside of us, even though everybody on that show is fucking miserable, right? And that's the power of addiction, you know? And so when you have a show or a celebrity who just glamorizes it and just puts out this notion that, you know, oh yeah, it's dangerous, oh yeah, you could die, but it's also pretty sexy, you know? I'm just so fucking sick of it. And if you have, and the thing is, art, entertainment, I'm not talking about it like as a gateway. That's bullshit too, 100%. So don't get that mistaken. It's not a gateway. Nobody chooses to do drugs or not drugs based on TV. That's like the dumbest fucking thing ever. It's like, oh, you played a violent video game, so you like did something horrific. Like, I mean, are we fucking stupid? Of course, that there's no correlation there. So don't That's not what I'm trying to say, but what I am trying to say is that if you are an addict, and we are, and obviously it's personal to me, but we are also a country of addicts. The world is full of escape artists, and people die every day looking for peace of mind and looking for an escape that never fucking is reachable. And so when you put out a show that's like, oh, it's just like sexy drug use, and it's like, oh, well, everybody's fucking, how it is. These fucking shows, they make it look like it's sexy, like it's not, but it is. Or you put out this fucking documentary, and then it's like, oops, my bad, I actually didn't know what I was talking about. Well, people's I'm sure, died now. That's just how I feel about it. And it's irresponsible. And for an addict, we are just really need, I think, as a society, to look at addiction and addicts differently, and to actually look at what works, because everything that we're doing and putting out there is doing nothing but exacerbating the problem, and it is costing people their lives. And thank God I just was lucky enough to live through this horrific, hellish near-death experience, so I could get to the point where I love myself and I love life, and I'm taking control over my life for the first time in my life. And I'm 38. It's taken me mid 34 to 38 to even get to this point. But if that had not happened, I would have never gotten to this point if I had continued to listen to every single one of these fake ass hoes in Hollywood, in the recovery community, because they are hurting people and they are doing nothing to help the situation, big picture and also locally. Everybody's got something to say. Like, people that are like, oh, Suboxone's not really sober. Oh, Suboxone substitute one for another. People are so fucking ignorant. Everybody's going to have an opinion. So you just have to do what works for you and just drown out all the noise and don't even pay attention to it, because nobody's going to be there for you. If you have to be there for yourself, and that's something I have really thankfully, so much gratitude that I have had a chance to learn. So y'all have a good night.